Hello, my name is Zuzana Pšenáková. I'm a sports psychologist, and today I'm going to speak to you about building self-confidence and mental toughness in sport. For me, personally, I think it's one of the biggest topics that we talk about with athletes. Just to introduce myself, I'm a psychologist. I studied sports psychology in the University of Edinburgh. And I worked since then for about 7 years. I worked with professional athletes, teams. I worked with national teams of Slovakia in football. And me, I'm a former, not professional, but I'm a former football player. So I know what I'm gonna talk about. That was actually why I started to study sports psychology. It's because during my whole life, I did sports, and every single time I know that my mind was powerful in my performance, and I knew that I want to help athletes to unlock their potential by improving their mental skills. So today, confidence and mental toughness, as I said, I think it's one of the biggest topics in sports psychology, but just to give you kind of a broader vision of what actually sports psychology does and what topics it includes. Here is a study done by Duran and Bash and their collective. Last year they studied top Canadian athletes, and they kind of they analyze what their mental skills are and what makes them the best in the world. So as the first mental skills, or the most fundamental mental skills that we always look into, is self-confidence, it's mental toughness, and it's motivation. These three, if a player or athlete is good in this, I think it's it's a very good start to become successful. Then we talk a lot with athletes, we talk about emotions and self-regulations. So for example, it's how to control your emotions, how to be self-aware, how to manage your stress. That's also, I think, one of the biggest topics. And also how to concentrate in and how to focus in the key moments of your games. This is about one athlete, but athletes are always as a group. They always come with a coach, and the relationships and the atmosphere in the team or in the club or between athletes and coaches is also very important. So we as sports psychologists, practitioners, we also look into the coach-athlete relationship. We look into leadership, communication, and cooperation as a team. So this was just to give you a small introduction to sports psychology, because many athletes are not familiar with what it actually does. But today we are going to talk about the fundamentals, and that's self-confidence and mental toughness. So let's go into it. Here is a small quiz for you. We've got 3 basketball players, all with the average shooting efficiency 50%. The first player, we are talking about their pre-game interviews, and the first player says before the game, "I feel great. I had a lot of fun in training today. The coach praised me. Everything is fine at home. I think I will have 80% shooting efficiency tomorrow." Player B says, "I'm insanely nervous about the match. I would rather not even go there. We had a fight at home. Then I came late to the training and the coach yelled at me. I think I will have a 20% shooting efficiency tomorrow." And the last player, player C, says, "I think my shooting efficiency will be as usual, so 50%. And now my question for you is, which player do you think has the best self-confidence? Now, if you thought about the player number 3 or player C, you were right. Now, why is this? Self-confidence, it's not about being the loudest in the room, it's not about having the biggest speeches in the room, but it's about a proper and objective, realistic evaluation of your skills. First of all, self-confidence, there's 2 kind of components to self-confidence. The first one is self-awareness. What it means, self-awareness is being able to have a good self-awareness. It's about being able to evaluate your skills realistically. So knowing what my strengths are, knowing what my weaknesses are, and for example, knowing what kind of progress I made. This is how we develop this. It's about having good feedback from high quality feedback from your parents and from your coaches when you are young, right? That's self-awareness. But then we have a different component, and that's self-esteem. And self-esteem, and I think this is a huge topic in sport, and especially in female sport. It's about feeling that no matter what, I'm a valuable person. I often meet with players and they tell me that, you know, I'm not happy when I don't perform well. And it's of course, you don't have to be happy when you don't perform well, but it's also about knowing that your performance doesn't kind of define your value as a person. And it's, in professional sport, I believe that this is one of the biggest topics that we talk about with players, because it's such a performance-oriented and results-oriented environment, and it creates this idea of, you know, you are only good and people like you only if you play well. So for me, when I look into players' confidence, I always look into these two components, and that's whether they can evaluate their skills objectively, so realistically, and then whether they value themselves without results. Okay, so this is just a theory about self-confidence, just to give you some kind of broad insight into what it actually means. Now, what are the factors that I usually meet with when I'm working with players when we talk about self-confidence? Now, what it influences is, for example, performance in trainings, game results, of course, but it's also club culture. So whether, for example, and the team culture, so whether there are mistakes allowed in the team or everyone screams at you when you make a mistake. It's about what's your relationship with your coaches, and then parents and family. And I don't want to forget this, because our self-confidence actually starts building when we are until we are 6 or 8 years old, and then we can change it a little bit, but the basis is everything starts when we are very, very young, and it's mostly influenced by your parents and how they treat you and how they communicate with you and how they react to you. Okay, so this was just a small theory about self-confidence, and now you're gonna have a little task so that you will look into how you are actually confident and what happens when you lose your confidence. So please take a paper or phone, just somewhere where you can take note. And the first question that I have for you is, how does my performance look like when I'm confident? What I want to hear and what I want you to think about and then write down is, what do you do on the pitch? So for example, you ask for the ball, you run a lot, you try to make some maybe one-on-ones. How do you feel? That's the second question. So what's the emotion inside of you? And what are you thinking about? So what are you focusing on? What's going on in your head? Okay, you've got a few minutes to write it down. Okay, follow up. I want you to do exactly the same what you just did, but think about times when you are not confident. So how does your performance look like when you are not confident? So what do you do on the pitch? So how does your game change? How do you feel? So what's actually going in terms of emotions? How do you feel? And what are you thinking about? So what are you focusing on? Okay? Now again, you've got a few minutes to write it down. Try to think about the differences between the first question, when you are confident, when you are feeling good in the game, and then when you are not confident. Okay, and the last question in this little exercise: what situations, people, factors, that maybe we mentioned them before, tend to lower your confidence? So what actually makes you believe in yourself less? Is it that you made a mistake in the game? Is it that you are playing against a good opponent? Is it that you are, I don't know, the coach gave you some kind of negative feedback, what actually makes you believe in yourself less? Now again, you've got a few minutes to think about it. Okay, please just leave the paper for now, and we're gonna come back to it later. Now, why did I ask you about your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior or your performance? And this is the first thing that I want you to learn today, and it's a skill of self-talk. So what it actually means, self-talk is the inner voice that we hear in our heads. So it's the thoughts that it's basically the voice that you hear in your head. So maybe it's something like, oh man, I'm not gonna do it today, I'm not gonna play well today, or I'm so excited for this game, I think I'm gonna play very well, or you think about how could you make a mistake like that. It's the voice that you hear that actually influences your emotions, because if you talk to yourself negatively, so if your self-talk is negative, when you tell yourself, oh, I'm not good enough, how are you gonna feel? You're gonna feel probably stressed, maybe scared, maybe you're gonna feel frustrated, maybe demotivated, and it all affects your emotional state. And now once you feel bad, of course it's gonna influence your performance. So you're gonna, I don't know, maybe ask for the ball less, maybe you're gonna hide on the pitch, maybe you aren't gonna do just easy stuff, maybe you're gonna pass the ball rather than dribble in, and it affects your performance. Now, the self-talk is, I think it's one of the first skills that I teach my athletes to work with, because it's so powerful that when you change your self-talk and you learn how to control your thoughts, your emotional state is better, and therefore your performance is better. So again, just to so that you think about how your self-talk is, try to think about there is a component that we inner inner critic. So that's someone, or that's the voice inside your head that's very negative and that makes you doubt yourself. So inner critic, for example, tells you that you are not gonna do well, that you're gonna fail, that, I don't know, that the last performances that you had were really, really poor and you're not gonna do well again. So it's the voice inside you that tells you that you are not good enough. Now my question is, what does your inner critic look like? What does it say to you? So in other words, what negative thoughts go around in your head or inside in your head, in your mind, when you are not feeling well? It can be, again, I want you to write down the thoughts. You've got about, I don't know, 2-3 minutes to think about it. And I want you to write a concrete sentence that you would say to yourself, for example, after you miss a shot or after you make a mistake and your team concedes a goal. Okay, and I now want you to think about what would you tell to your best friend if she or he came up to you with the same problem or if he was in the same situation that you just described above. So instead of, for example, if she or he makes a mistake, you would tell him, okay, focus on the next one, you're gonna do well, rather than telling yourself that, oh, you're not gonna do well the whole game anymore. So what would you say to your best friend if she was in the same situation as you described in the previous question? Ahoj. And now I want you to look at the difference, at the answers that you answered the first question and the second question. The bigger the difference is, the stronger your inner critic is, and the more you need to work on your self-talk. Okay, we're going to talk about how to work on your self-talk later, but this is just for self-awareness of how it actually works for you and how strong your inner critic is. So if the difference is big, then you know you have to work on it. Because often we are taught to, you know, be empathetic and to support our friends and our teammates, but no one, maybe few people, actually teach us how to support yourself when things are not going well for you. And usually we are very strict, we are very negative, and we tend to have very self-critical thoughts. So this was just to show you how it is for you. Now, the second fact that I want you to remember from this presentation is how our brain actually works. Now, lots of people think that our brain is wired, it's programmed to be positive, to be, I don't know, happy, to keep us excited, but it's not. Actually, our brain is wired and programmed to keep us alive. What does it mean, and now how it's related to sport? Actually, the brain structure that makes us feel stressed is very old, and we are talking about, I don't know, thousands years old, because we actually, just like you see this guy here, our brain that keeps us under stress is the same brain that kept our jak sú predkovia? It's the same structures that keeps our ancestors alive. Now, what it means and what actually happens when we are under pressure. Now, think about the situations that our ancestors were, in what situations they were, and the situations where, like, okay, they were hunted by a bear, or they had to hunt a bear, and what they actually needed to do this was to be in stress reaction, right, in the brain. So now you probably know this, it's flight, fight, or freeze. And what it actually does to our brain is that when you want to hunt a bear or you want to run away from the bear, your breathing fastens, your heart rate increases, you start to sweat, all the energy goes to our arms and legs so that you can run, and adrenaline and cortisol are secreted. Now, and why I'm talking to you about this, I think it sounds familiar to you and it sounds familiar to me, is that when we are under stress, we all still experience these kind of symptoms. Now, why is that? Again, because the brain structure, it's called amygdala, the brain structure is older than our rational brain, okay? Now, this was the physiological effects on us. But there is also psychological effect when we are under stress, and that's that we try to, or we see things very negatively. It's called black scenarios effect. Now, what it means is that we are, as much as we are ready in terms of our energy, we are also ready psychologically to hunt or be hunted. And it means that we always look for danger. Now, what it means and why I'm actually talking to you about this is that today we are not hunted by a bear, or we don't hunt a bear, but this kind of reaction we still feel when we are, I don't know, before important game or presentation, or something is happening to us. So when there is a stressful situation, the brain starts to function in this way, rather than actually thinking about it rationally. Okay? And now this is crucial because I want you to understand how your brain functions so that you can work with it. So first of all, when you are before important game, you're probably gonna start sweating. Your breath will start to fasten. Your heart rate is gonna up. So you're gonna feel tense. And this is when you know that you need to calm yourself down. Now, there is a difference between good stress and bad stress. I think, look, this kind of reaction actually activates you to give some kind of performance. So it's not only bad, stress is also good. It kind of activates you. But when it comes to important games, the stress can go so high that it actually makes our performance bad. So, before important game, you're probably gonna feel stress. You are probably gonna look, and your brain is probably gonna look for black scenarios. So, for example, you're gonna feel that you're not gonna perform well, that you don't want your grandma to be there, for example, even though before the games before normal games, you would like your grandma to be there. It's something that just makes world feel more dangerous, and it's just how it was before. We keep this structure inside our brains till today. So here are about 7 maybe principles that I always talk about with my athletes, and that I want you to introduce to you so that you can perform better. First thing that we always talk about is control what you can control. Now, what it actually means. In sport, there is so many things that you can't control, and they control your mindset, they control your performance. And now, what are the things that you can't control? You can't control referees, you can't control opponents' behavior, coach's decision, a mistake that you already made, weather, pitch quality, or performance of your teammates. Now, I often see players or athletes getting really frustrated with what they can't control, and I always try to work with them in the way that they start to focus on things that they can control, because focusing on what you can control is wasted energy. It doesn't help you, it just makes you feel more frustrated, and it probably keeps your focus on not the right things. So what you can control, and what I want you to put your effort and energy into, is your reactions to the situations that happen during the game, during the trainings, during your off-pitch life, your performance, of course, your activity on the pitch, so how much effort you give, your communication, your focus, your training, and your lifestyle. So what I want you to do is every time you get into a difficult situation, I want you to focus on and to ask yourself, okay, what about this situation can I control? If it's nothing, okay, try to control your reaction to it. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what you do with it and how you react to it. And if there is something you can do about it, okay, and it's in your control, okay, go and do it. But don't waste your energy on things that you can't control. Okay, it keeps your focus away and it keeps your energy. Okay, principle number 2, try to stay in the present moment. Now what it means is that, again, how our mind works, you often think about your future, you often think about your past, but the best performances we usually give when we are focused on what's happening right now on the pitch. When we don't think about, okay, are we going to win this game or are we going to lose or whatever, or you don't think about actually what happened before, if you made a mistake, if you conceded a goal, or if the first half of the game wasn't good. I want you to train your ability to focus on what's happening right now. And again, this is a crucial skill because I feel like every time we focus on the future, so like are we gonna lose or are we gonna win? We don't actually focus on what's happening on the pitch, and therefore our performance goes down because our decisions just take longer, and maybe we don't actually. I don't know, we don't catch a movement from a player that we are meant to defend, okay? So every time you think about what happened before, or every time you think about what can actually happen, try to think about what's happening right now on the pitch, okay? Try to think about your next task that you need to do. Is it, I don't know, defending a player? Is it making a run into the offense? What is it? One thing that can help you quite well is this breathing exercise. Now, breathing, you always breathe when you focus on your breath, you are always in the present, right? So, when you feel stressed, this is exercise made especially when you feel stressed before a game, for example. Try to focus on your breath. So, try to breathe in and breathe out. Now you can see that the breathe out period is longer, and that's why. That's because I want you to make your breathing out longer, because it's gonna make you calm down, okay? So breathe in for about, I don't know, 3-4 seconds, breathe out for 6 seconds, breathe in, breathe out. When you do this, your mind is gonna be clear and your body is gonna relax. All the things that we talked about in stress reaction, we can actually calm down by having good breath, all right? Okay, principle number 3. We already talked about this, but your performance does not define your worth as a person. Now, I talked to one of my clients. He's a 25 years old professional hockey player, and he told me that, you know, I'm only happy when I play well, and that doesn't happen a lot because he pressures himself that he needs to play well. And that's a problem, because every time you kind of take your identity that you are only a player and that you are only worth some kind of self-love, when you play well, you're not gonna feel happy like a lot in your life. Okay, so try to think about what other roles in life you have. You are daughter, your mom maybe, your partner, you are, I don't know, maybe you're a student, depends, but you are not only a player, and I don't want you to define yourself as only as a player, because your entire happiness in life is gonna depend on whether you play good or whether you play well or play bad. And it's in sport, it goes like this, right? Okay, principle number 4, focus on your performance, not on the results. And again, we go into pre-game routines, and we go into, again, also during the game, how it works. Many times I see athletes putting too much pressure and too much focus on the results. So, okay, am I gonna win? Am I gonna lose? Am I gonna get the trophy? Am I gonna get the medal? And this only takes away focus from your performance. So rather than focusing on if I'm gonna win or if I'm gonna lose, try to think about, okay, what do you actually want to do in the game? What are the key roles that you have? What are the key tasks that your coaches gives you? So what's your role in defense? What's your role in offense? What's your role in set pieces? Before the game, instead of focusing on the result, try to focus on performance and imagine yourself that you are actually doing well in the performance, completing the tasks that you have, that you are completing them well. Okay, principle number 5, think about what you want for it to happen. Now, what it actually means. When I tell you right now, okay, don't think about what you're gonna have for dinner today, the first thing that comes to your mind is what you're gonna do for your dinner, what you're gonna cook. And that's exactly how it happens in sport as well. When I tell you, okay, don't make a mistake now, your brain and your muscles actually hear, okay, make a mistake now. Okay, so try to keep your self-talk and what you think about your focus on things that you want to happen. So instead of, you know, when you tell yourself, okay, well, I can't make a mistake again, usually you make a mistake again. And that's because our brain does not know how to think like it shouldn't do something. Okay, so try to program your brain by thinking what you want to do well and what you actually want to happen, because it's gonna help your performance. 6th principle, and I think a huge one, I think it's one of the biggest topics that we talk about with my athletes. It's okay to make a mistake. Now, again, sport is it's an environment that's very results oriented, very performance oriented, and it makes you think that you can't make a mistake. And the fear of making mistake, the fear of failure, usually keeps our performance down. So, first of all, I want you to actually allow yourself to make a mistake. And even if you do, I want you to have a very positive self-talk. We're going to talk about it in a second. But this is a principle that you need to learn if you want to play well in important games. Okay? It's okay to make a mistake. And the seventh principle is be your honest supporter. Again, we are talking about self-confidence. I think it's important to be honest to yourself. So just like we talk about self-awareness of being, you know, looking at yourself realistically, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. I think it's important to be honest to yourself about what you are doing well and what you are actually not doing well. But again, there needs to be a balance, and I want you to be more positive, more supportive than you are negative. Okay? So, for example, when you are evaluating your game and you are thinking about how you played, usually the first things that come to our mind are the things that we did not do well. And now I want you to think about, okay, these are things that I didn't do well, but what are I want you to ask yourself, what are the things that I actually did well, and what I need to do again in the next game. Okay, so I don't want you to look at yourself very, again, like a black scenario, like what went actually wrong, but I want you to be your supporter. Again, I think so far the players that I met and were successful, they're always confident that they knew what their strengths are, and I think it's very, very important because there are so many things in professional sport and in sport that are gonna influence your self-confidence negatively. Okay, so these were kind of the main principles of sport, what I talk to my clients about. I think these are the main things that you need to learn in terms of confidence and in terms of mental toughness. Now, I've got 3 situations for you that we usually talk about with my players or athletes. The first situation is being nervous before a game. Now, again, we talked about how the stress reaction, what's happening inside our body, what's happening in our mind, what's happening in our brain. And now the thing is what to do with it. How can I calm myself down when there is an important game? The first thing I want you to think about is about your achievements, about your past achievements. So what you actually did well in the past. What were the big games that you played well? What were the good things that you did well in training or in previous games? I want you to think about and be like strict on yourself that you need to find at least, I don't know, 5 things that you did well for the past year, for example, games that you played well. Okay, so think about your previous achievements. Why? Because as we talked about before, when we are stressed, we usually look at ourselves negatively. We only see the bad things, we only see the bad performances, and now I want you to actually think about the good performances that you made. Okay, second thing that you can do when you feel nervous before the game is, again, using breathing exercises. We talked about it before. I think it's one of the most powerful techniques to keep your stress down, okay? Again, we talked about self-talk a lot. I know maybe it's not easy to teach yourself to be positive to yourself, but once you make at least a small change in how you talk to yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you evaluate yourself, I guarantee you that you're gonna feel better. So try to keep your self-talk positive, try to think about how you're gonna do well in the game, try to imagine the things or the scenarios and the tasks that you need to complete, how you are doing them successfully. Stay present. So again, what we talked about, try not to think about too much into the future. So try to focus on, for example, on your warm-up, then try to focus on the first 5 minutes, but don't think too much into the future. So don't think about, okay, are we gonna win? Are we gonna lose? What is the coach gonna tell me? Is he gonna sub me in the next game if I don't play well? Okay, leave this behind. Don't think about this. Try to focus on, okay, what's my next task? What do I need to do in this moment right now? And when the game starts, try to start with simple tasks, okay? So when you feel nervous, usually what I hear from players that in 5-10 minutes, they feel better once the game started, they feel better. So try to, if you feel nervous, try to start with simple tasks during the beginning of the game, and this is going to help you gain the confidence in the game, and then you can try to do more complicated things. Okay, so maybe some easy passes, easy runs, and then try to build up on that. Okay, situation under number 2. It's after you lose some kind of important game, or when you are underperforming for quite a few games. Now, again, we talked about it. Try to think about what you could have done better. Now, we learn not only by practicing stuff, but we learn also by actually thinking about and imagining how you could have done it better. Okay, so try to think about what you could have done better, but don't go into the self-critical, self-destruction thoughts. Try to stick to, okay, I didn't do this well and I want to improve this. That's it, okay? That's the information that you want to keep, that you want to get from games like that. Again, try to think about what you did well. After losses, we usually think, again, we think about what we didn't do well, what was wrong, but there is always something that you did right. Okay, so I want you to think about also about things you did well, not only about things that you didn't do well. Maybe write them down on the paper so that you actually see it, but it's important to keep the balance. Okay, maybe there was a performance that wasn't so good, but there is always something good in the performance. I already said this, stop with the self-critical self-talk, so it means try to be positive to yourself, try to tell yourself, okay, this was not my best game, but I'm gonna do better. Okay, the self-talk, how you look at the situation is gonna help you a lot. And the last thing you can do is try to set a goal to the training. What it means, once we lose or once we underperform, we tend to again think about the past, like what we didn't do good. But we need to start focusing on what's happening right now. And what's happening right now is your training. So try to, just for motivation and to keep your focus on what we actually want to do, try to set a new goal to the training. So you want to work on your first touch, you want to work on, I don't know, on your physical side, you want to work on your strength, that's up to you. But try to, from the game that you played, and you didn't do well, try to focus on, okay, what am I gonna do right now with it? How am I gonna improve? Because you are gonna build self-confidence on the training that you are gonna do. Okay? The training is an environment where you can gain your confidence. And now I have a video for you. It's from Roger. It's Roger Federer speaking, one of the, I think, greatest icons in the world, and he's got a few thoughts that I thought that you can hear and are going to help you.
In 2008, I was going for a record 6th consecutive title. I was playing for history. I'm not going to walk you through the match point by point. If we did, we would be here for hours. Almost 5 hours to be exact. There were rain delays. The sun went down. Rafa won 2 sets. I won the next 2 sets in tie breaks. And we found ourselves at 7-all in the 5th. I understand why people focus on the end. The final minute is so dark I could barely see the chalk on the grass. But looking back, I feel like I lost at the very first point of the match. I looked across the net and I saw a guy who just a few weeks earlier crushed me in straight sets at the French Open. And I thought, this guy is maybe hungrier than I am. And he's finally got my number. It took me until the 3rd set before I remembered, hey buddy, you're the 5-time defending champion, and you're on grass, by the way. You know how to do this. But I came too late, and Rafa won, and it was well deserved. Some defeats hurt more than others. I knew I would never get another shot at 6 in a row. I lost Wimbledon, I lost my #1 ranking, and suddenly people said, he had a great run. Is this the changing of the guard? But I knew what I had to do. Keep working and keep competing.
And now the last situation that I usually talked about with players is bouncing back from a mistake. We already talked about a little bit, but now I want you to give some kind of proper strategy how to deal with it. First of all, and it depends if you have time in the game or you don't have time in the game, because once you, for example, lose a ball and you have to go defend, I want you to just, tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna defend now. But when there is time, when, I don't know, the game stopped for a little bit, players usually tell me that the thoughts about what actually happened and what kind of mistake they made is coming back. And now when this happens, I want you to give yourself and your brain really tell yourself, stop. I don't want to think like this, okay? There will be time after the game when you can analyze what you could have done better, but right now your task is to perform the rest of the game. So I want you to stop the thought, really literally tell yourself, okay, stop, I don't want to think about this. And if there is time, again, if there is time, try to encourage yourself. So use the positive self-talk that we talked about. Try to tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna do better next time, or the next shot is gonna be a goal. Okay, for example, if you missed a shot. But maybe there is no time for this, maybe not. If there is no time and you have to react to what's happening on the field, just focus on the next task. Again, don't go too much into the future, so don't think about, okay, is because of this game, because of this mistake, are we gonna lose the game, or what is the coach gonna tell me, am I gonna be subbed next game because of this? Try to focus on, okay, what do you need to do next? Okay? Try to give yourself an instruction. So like, okay, you have to go back to defense, or you have to get the ball from the opponent. Try to give yourself instruction what you are gonna do. Okay? We want to shift from the negative thoughts and from the worries. We want to shift to what's happening right now on the pitch. Now, how you can do that? First, you can use concentration cues. What it means, you can use, for example, communication. When you communicate on the pitch, you usually don't talk about, or you don't think about what happened before or what's going to happen after. So communication is going to make you actually focus on the game and what's happening right now. You can tell yourself the instruction, like I talked about. And for example, you can give yourself, okay, 3 cues, like, okay, where is my player that I need to defend? Where is my teammates that I need to cooperate with? And where is the ball? And I want you to focus on these 3 components of the game. Okay, again, what's gonna happen in your mind is you're gonna shift your focus from, okay, I really didn't do this well. It's gonna shift your focus to what's happening right now on the pitch. Okay, so use the cues, communication, next task, or try to use the people on the pitch. So your teammates, the opponent that you need to defend, or the space where you need to be, and the ball. 3 most important things that you need to focus on. Okay, and again, Roger has something to say to you about this.
In tennis, perfection is impossible. In the 1,526 singles matches I played in my career, I won almost 80% of those matches. Now, I have a question for you. What percentage of points do you think I won in those matches? Only 54%. In other words, even top-ranked tennis players win barely more than half of the points they play. When you lose every second point on average, you learn not to dwell on every shot. You teach yourself to think, okay, I double faulted, it's only a point. Okay, I came to the net and I got passed again, it's only a point. Even a great shot, an overhead backhand smash that ends up on ESPN's top 10 playlist, that too is just a point. So here's why I'm telling you this. When you're playing a point, it has to be the most important thing in the world, and it is. But when it's behind you, it's behind you. This mindset is really crucial because it frees you to fully commit to the next point and the next point after that, with intensity, clarity, and focus. The truth is, whatever game you play in life, sometimes you're going to lose a point, a match, a season, a job. It's a roller coaster with many ups and downs. And it's natural when you're down to doubt yourself and to feel sorry for yourself. And by the way, your opponents have self-doubt too. Don't ever forget that. But negative energy is wasted energy. You want to become a master at overcoming hard moments. That is, to me, the sign of a champion. The best in the world are not the best because they win every point. It's because they know they'll lose again and again and have learned how to deal with it. You accept it, cry it out if you need to, and then force a smile.
And we are coming to the end, and I try to share with you the strategies and the techniques that I use with my athletes, and sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelmed, like you don't know where to start. So one thing that I want to tell you in the end is start with something small. Take one thing that we talked about here, whether it's self-talk, whether it's the focus, whether it's I don't know, calming yourself down under pressure. Try to choose just one and try to make a small step forward. Okay, try to make small progress, and then again small progress. Okay, step by step. So start with something small, and I wish you good luck in your next games. Thank you for your attention.